So for the Bulldogs, they have stumbled out of the gates at various stages and sort of missed their moment to plant their flag. They lived the journey last year, which we well know they were the flat track bullies. They couldn't beat the teams above them. So to step out and do it against the defending champs and to do it in the manner that they did from 26 points down, what impression has it left you with?
No, profound. So I did that practice game the week before and they were taking it very seriously against Hawthorn, but they carried that on. What I loved about it was two players I think are symptomatic of where they're at is English and Norton, who at various stages have been All-Australian. Aaron Norton had a good year, kicked 60 goals. But he just had a goal kicked against him by Darcy Fort. The game's in the balance, and this is what I love. Just dig in here. Take Fort somewhere where he's uncomfortable. There, that moment there, to me, because English was outstanding last week, and again this week was really important. That moment said a bit, and he kicks a really important goal, kicked 2 in the last quarter. And the other one is Aaron Norton, who's, just look at these efforts here, Gerard. Hadn't had a great night, so that's 1. He doesn't lose his feet. That's 2 back at Harris Andrews. And this is in the balance, and this is 3 again, turns the footy over, ball ends up in English's hand, he kicks his second goal. So to me, the message that, we are told that they are, banging the drum really hard at is never give up, tooth and nail, all that sort of stuff was encapsulated in those plays, and they played like it. 26 points down against the reigning premier in Brisbane on opening night, and they kick 8 of the next 11 goals. And, gee, they got some value out of Jakes, and Selwood was terrific, Butterick was a great choice. So we know they got top end. I didn't buy any of the nonsense that they had the best list in the league last year. I just wasn't buying it because the bottom part dropped away. On the form that we're seeing here, I think they make them better at the other end, which then means that they're going to be right there. Bontempelli did his bit, The other side of the coin, Lachie Neale was unbelievable for the Brisbane Lions, and Zorko was great. So it was a really good game. It was actually better than that. It was a great game of footy.
So Richard's ascension to be able to control the midfield and what that means for Bontempelli spinning forward when the game's on the line?
Yeah. So coach-wise, I thought Luke Beveridge had a great night in the box because it was in the balance. And he was brave enough to take the man who's, many say is the best player in the comp and start him forward, inside forward 50. And that means that you've got to have faith in what you leave behind. And Ed Richards just steps up and says, leave that to me. And he's the best player on the ground. And Bontempelli impacts enormously down here. And all of a sudden, Harris, who's had a great night on Sam Darcy, but then Darcy goes off and he's got Bont, and then Bont takes him somewhere he doesn't want to go. And this is the end result. I mean, these are uplifting moments, and we'll talk to our coaches about this. This is Luke Beveridge, he knows the camera's there. You're aware of that. Well, I'm assuming he's aware of that, but this is more than look. This is okay. We've invested heavily in this. There's been a narrative around that we can't take a big scalp. Well, we've just taken out the back-to-back premiers at home after giving up a 26-point start and we've kicked 8 of 11. Who's next?
Their own expectations rise. So we'll talk about the Lions' problems in a minute, but it was meritorious, and bar for Rayner missing the soccer goal in the square and Charlie Cameron, who kicked everything, missing the snap that he would kick 9 times out of 10. They're right there again. Just thinking through how early this premiership defence starts, it was full of merit from them as well.
No, I said it straight away that no one loses any respect at all. And they threw plenty of big punches. I mean, Lockie was fantastic. Zorko was fantastic. McCluggage was off the ground inside 5 or 10 minutes. And Charlie Cameron was, probably the best player on the ground in the first half and in the best handful. So this wasn't a Western Bulldogs victory over a premier that are coming off a shortened pre-season, which we look at Geelong on the back of that performance, talk about in a moment, and they just didn't look ready to play. For whatever reason. Well, Brisbane, probably their depth and quality goes a bit deeper than even the Cats, and they were pretty brave.
So last year they endured setback after setback, injury, tough fixture. They absorbed it all and they prevailed at the end. So they start with 3 suspensions and an injury. So Hugh McCluggage is going to be short-term, but he was out of the game straight away, and they're 3 suspensions. So they'll go to the tribunal on 2 of these, which is interesting. They've accepted Zach Bailey for the little elbow going backwards. Harris Andrews and Darcy Gardner. The Andrews one is so this is the first test case. There is the capacity within the tribunal system now for flexibility when there's a concussion that results. It's been rightly graded as severe, and now we find out the push and pull. Where is the capacity to argue this down from potentially 3 to 2 to 1? Is this the right case for it? What sort of culpability is there in the swinging arm going backwards? It's obviously careless, but what layer of culpability comes with that because the outcome is awful? this was a straight-up 50-metre penalty. Every time it happens, whether
Yeah.
it's a suspension or not, that's an interesting one if you drive the elbow forward in such a way. But the Andrews one is the one that every other club is going to be looking at, going,
Yeah.
OK, what's the capacity within this new structure to be able to argue something down from 3 to less? And that will only evolve through case law.
Yeah, so your area more than mine on the night, if you throw your hand back, and this, look, we talked about last week the gut punch, which was just stupid, that ended up getting a week, and this is as stupid as that. So I'm sure Zach Barley's sitting at home tonight and just looking at that going, well, I won't do that again. That's just an act of stupidity. So on the night, he throws, the thing was he looked back, and so Harris looks back and knows that Artie Jones is there. And so he does what all defenders need to do. He tries to stop him from running on, but swings it pretty forcefully. I don't think it's malicious. I don't think even it's intentional. But when the action goes like that and you haven't got control over where you're going to make contact, then you throw yourself at the hands of the matrix, I called it. Yeah. And in these circumstances, you've knocked out a bloke. He's been concussed. So if it's 3 weeks, that seems, at the top end. I could live with 2. I think one would be cheap.
Yeah.
That's where I sit.
So how do they interpret it and apply it? That's what we'll start to learn tomorrow night.